Good morning, yung may mga gustong matuto sa history of the Filipino people guys, makinig na. Continuation natin ito. Nasa part 3 na tayo, November 11, 2022 today. Ang babasahin natin is Early Customs and Practices. Part 3 na tayo guys, ang bilis no? Basa. Before the coming of the Spaniards, the Filipinos had a civilization of their own. The various aspects of this civilization doubtless came partly from the Malays who settled in the country and partly from a response to the new environment. The customs and traditions, the government and mode of living have to a great extent come down to the present and may be found in remote rural areas which have so far succeeded in resisting the impact of modern civilization. For this reason, many of the customs and practices of the pre-colonial Filipinos are still operative in many parts of the country, a circumstance that is, in a sense, advantageous for it offers an observer first-hand materials for the reconstruction of the distant past. Clothing. Among the ancient Filipinos, the male attire was composed of the upper and lower parts. The upper, called kanggan, was a black or blue collarless jacket with short sleeves. It seems that the color of the jacket indicated the rank of the wearer, for the chief wore a red jacket, while those below his rank wore either blue or black, depending upon their position in society. The lower part of the attire, called bahag, consisted of a strip of cloth wrapped about the waist passing down between the thighs. Such method of dressing naturally left one's thighs and legs exposed. The woman's dress too was composed of the upper and lower parts. The upper, called baro or camisa, was a jacket with sleeves, while the lower part, called saya by the Tagalogs and patadyong by the Visayans, was a loose skirt. A piece of red or white cloth called tapis was usually wrapped about the waist. Men, women, and children walk about barefooted, for sandals and shoes were Spanish innovations. The male had a headgear consisting of a piece of cloth called potom, which was wrapped around his head. The color of the potom showed the manliness of a man. A red potom, for instance, signified that the wearer had killed a man in war, but he who had killed at least 7 was privileged to wear an embroidered potom. The woman, on the other hand, had no potom, but wore her hair gracefully knotted at the back of her head. Ornaments. The early Filipinos had a weakness for personal adornment. The women, as well as men, burdened themselves with such trappings as armlets, called kalumbika, pendants, bracelets, gold rings, earrings, and even leglets. These ornaments were made of gold, which was abundant in the mines and rivers, and precious stones. Since gold was a common commodity, the ancients made good use of it, not only by turning it into rings, armlets, and bracelets, but also into fillings between the teeth. The fillings were made to adorn their teeth, not to cover up a decayed tooth. How I wish marami pa rin tayong gold today, no? The adornment of the body was made not only by wearing costly and heavy jewels, but by tattooing it with various designs. Even women were so tattooed about their bodies and faces that they appeared to be preparing for a masked ball in a carnival auditorium. The tattoo then was a form of ornament to enhance the beauty of a man or woman, but it had another function, namely to exhibit a man's war record. The more tattoos a man had, the more he was looked up to in society, for his numerous tattoos were, in a manner of speaking, his war medals. Among the ancient Filipinos, the Visayans were the most tattooed people, compelling the early Spanish writers to call them the Pintados, or painted ones, and their islands Islas del Pintados, or islands of the painted people. Whether their superabundant display of tattoos was a sign of bravery or simple vanity is hard to say. It may be presumed, however, that the most tattooed man was both vain and brave. Houses. If one goes to the nearest barrio or village, and one will see the ancient Filipinos house, this is because the average barrio house is constructed along a plan that originates from ancient times. There is basically no difference between the present barrio house and the ancient Filipino one. Neither time nor fortune, it seems, has wrought significant changes in the dwelling of the rural folk. Built to suit the tropical climate, the ancient house was made of wood, bamboo, and nipa palm. Antonio de Morga, a Spanish jurist and connoisseur, described the average house as he saw it at the beginning of the 17th century. The houses and dwellings of all these natives Filipinos are universally set up sticks. Why? The houses and dwellings of all these natives Filipinos are universally set up stakes and argus. Example, columns high above the ground. They are built and tiled with wood and bamboos and covered and roofed with nipa palm leaves. Each house is separate and is not built adjoining another. In the lower part are enclosures made by sticks and bamboos where their fowls and cattle are reared, and the rice pounded and cleaned. One ascends into the house by means of ladders that can be drawn up, which are made from two bamboos. Naabutan ko pa tong ganitong bahay. Above are their open batalanis used for household duties. The parents and children live together. There is little adornment and finery in the house, which is called pahantin. Actually, yung nipa hut ay yung ganitong bahay, guys. Diba nung araw nalilipat yan? Binubuhat lang, tapos nalilipat kung saang lugar. Ngayon mga bato na, so hindi na kayang ilipat-lipat. Titibagin na siya. Okay, above are open batalanis, galleries. So batalanis is galleries. Used for household duties, the parents and children live together. There is little adornment and finery in the house, which is called bahantin. Layo-layo natin konti. May salamin ako pero ang hirap pa rin. Among the descendants of the Indonesians, such as the Ilongots and the Kalingas of northern Luzon and Mandayas, and the Bagubos of Mindanao, the houses were built on treetops, presumably to prevent their enemies from surprising them in a raid. On the other hand, the Badjaos or sea gypsies of Sulu made their houses in their boats, for they were a sea-roving people whose life depended upon the wealth of the seas. Social classes. Philippine society was divided into three classes: the nobles, the freemen, and the dependents. The nobles, consisting of the chiefs and their families, wielded tremendous influence in the barangay and enjoyed rights that were not usually enjoyed by the other members of society. In the Tagalog region, they usually carried the title of Gat or Lakan, as in Lakandola or Gat Maitan. Next to the nobles were the freemen, called Mahadlika by the Tagalogs. They were composed of freemen and likewise of dependents who had earned their freedom. Occupying the lowest stratum were the dependents known as alipin among the Tagalog. A dependent acquired his low status in society by inheritance, by captivity in war, by failing to pay his debts, by purchase, or by committing a crime for which he had duly sentenced. It must be noted, however, that the lines drawn between the classes were not hard. Any member of the social classes could go up or down the social ladder depending upon the attendant circumstances. Among the Tagalogs, the dependents were either aliping namamahay or aliping sa kikilid. The namamahay had his own family and house and served his master during planting and harvest season, rode for him, helped in the construction of his house, and served his visitors. The sakikilid, on the other hand, had no property of his own, lived with the master, and could not even marry without the latter's consent. Among the Visayas, dependents were of three kinds: the tumataban, the tumarampok, and the ayoy. The first worked for his master when summoned to do so. The second worked 1 day for his master, and the third worked 3 days for his lord. There were gradations among the dependents. The full dependent was the son or daughter of dependent parents. The half dependent was the son or daughter of parents, one of whom was a full dependent and the other a freeman. The quarter dependent was the son or daughter of parents, one of whom was a half dependent and the other a freeman. The position of women. Women before the coming of the Spaniards enjoyed a unique position in society that their descendants during the Spanish occupation did not enjoy. Customary laws gave them the right to be the equal of men, for they could own and inherit property, engage in trade and industry, and succeed to the chieftainship of a barangay in the absence of a male heir. Then too, they had the exclusive right to give names to their children as a sign of deep respect. The men, when accompanying women, walked behind them. Marriage customs. There was a custom not so strictly followed in which a man belonging to one class married a woman of the same class. Thus a chief married a woman of his rank, a noble that of his class, and the dependent that of his status. Nevertheless, this custom was not rigid, and it was possible for a noble to marry a dependent or a woman of the chieftain class, and a dependent to marry a woman outside his rank. A man's wife has his legitimate wife and was called asawa, while the other women were euphemistically called friends. Only the children of the wife were regarded legitimate and legal heirs, whereas the children of the other women or friends were not considered legitimate and therefore barred from inheriting any property from the illegitimate father. Na sanggi ko yung takip. Dito na to, continuation pa rin. It took patience and a spirit of dedication of the part of the man to win the hand of his fair lady for the custom of the period, a custom that has persisted to this day. Hinto na tayo guys. Balikan na lang natin bukas yung marriage and customs para hindi tayo malito. Bye everyone. God bless.